Have you ever looked at your hands and felt as if there were a hidden secret there? Something that's been right in front of you your whole life, but that you've never truly noticed? Imagine that on each finger there's a small, almost imperceptible mark that could be much more than a biological mark, a detail so subtle that most people ignore it, but which perhaps carries a profound message about your own connection to the universe. I'm talking about the lunula, that whitish semicircle at the base of your nails, a silent arch that seems to have no significance whatsoever. But is it really just a meaningless detail? Or could it be a hidden code, engraved by nature itself as a reminder that you are part of something much greater than you imagine? Nikola Tesla believed that the secrets of the universe are not revealed in explosions or grandiose events, but in the invisible minutiae, in the subtle vibrations that almost no one bothers to observe. For him, every body, every cell, every frequency is an expression of universal laws that govern everything. If this is true, then why does this small arc appear in our hands? Is it simply a residue of biology, or is it a vibrational signal that the human body is, as Tesla said, a living antenna, capable of capturing and transmitting invisible energies? The impact of this question is greater than it seems. Because if the lunula is truly a symbol, then it's not just there to decorate your nails, but to provoke reflection. Have you ever wondered how many times you've walked past it without seeing it? How many times have you failed to question something that's been with you since birth? It's as if life hands you a key every day, but you carry it around without ever turning it. And herein arises the first conflict. Do we truly know who we are? Or have we become accustomed to believing that we are just flesh, bones, and chemical processes? Tesla rejected this limited view. He believed that life is made of vibration, invisible fields, and frequencies that connect in patterns. His mind didn't accept the idea of coincidence. For him, everything obeys laws that, though invisible, can be understood if we learn to look more deeply. This means that the lunula, however small and silent, cannot be just a coincidence. It is like a hidden beacon, waiting for your consciousness to mature enough to recognize it. You might be wondering, but what does this really mean for me? The answer isn't simple, because it requires you to open yourself to the possibility that every detail of the body is also a reflection of the cosmos. Modern science still tends to explain everything in terms of biology, but Tesla always went further. When he spoke of electricity and waves, he was ridiculed, called a dreamer, even crazy. However, today we know he was right. Electricity, radio, wireless transmission, all were invisible until they became proven reality. So why not consider the lunula as another of these invisible signals, a still ununderstood clue to the connection between human beings and the forces that govern the universe? Imagine for a moment that every time you look at your hands and see this small arc, you are seeing a symbol of your own vital energy. The body speaks in signals, but almost no one listens. This is the great irony. We carry within us marks that could reveal so much about our essence, yet we live blind to them. Could the lunula's silence be an invitation to awaken? Tesla had a powerful quote: "If you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." And if we apply that thought to this small semicircle, it ceases to be just biology and becomes crystallized vibration, energy molded into physical form. Isn't it fascinating to think that nature may have left us this reminder, as if to say, you are not just body, you are energy in resonance with infinity. And here arises a new conflict. If this is true, why does almost no one talk about it? Why have we grown up believing that such signs don't matter? Perhaps because society has conditioned us to believe only in what can be weighed and measured. But Tesla challenged this thinking. He knew that the invisible doesn't cease to exist just because we can't yet measure it. For him, reality is made of layers, and each layer reveals itself only to those who dare to seek it. Think about how many times you've ignored a hunch that later turned out to be true. How many times have you felt a strange vibration in a place, or an intuition about a person that later turned out to be true? The lunula can be seen as one of these reminders. You were born with it, but perhaps you never considered it to be more than an aesthetic detail. However, if Tesla were here, he would surely ask, do you really believe in coincidence? Or are you ready to admit that the universe speaks to you in ways you haven't learned to decipher? Now look at your hands again. See each lunula as a small piece of sky engraved within you. Isn't it curious that its shape is the same as the crescent moon? Isn't it provocative to think that what governs the cycles of the earth and the oceans is also reflected in your body? This opens the door to a disturbing reflection. If even the moon manifests itself in us, then we are not separate from the cosmos. We are a continuation of it. Tesla said that human beings are cogs in the same cosmic machine that moves stars and magnetic fields. If we accept this, then the lunula is not just a mark, but a signature of this machine. And here the inevitable question arises. Could this sign guide us in some way, like a silent map pointing to our true essence? Perhaps you feel a mixture of curiosity and resistance. Part of you wants to believe this is all just metaphor, while another part recognizes there's something there, something impossible to ignore. This internal conflict is the beginning of openness. Because it's in the moment, your mind oscillates between doubt and fascination, that new possibilities begin to emerge. Tesla knew this. He himself lived this paradox, haunted by the doubt of others, but sustained by his own certainty that the invisible reality held far more power than the world was willing to admit. It is at this point that the lunula ceases to be just a detail and becomes an invitation. It is there, discreetly, every day, asking you to look deeper, to see not just with your eyes, but with your intuition. Perhaps this is the first step toward a new way of perceiving yourself, recognizing that the body is not just matter, but language. A language that speaks in symbols, in vibrations, in silent signals waiting to be interpreted. And now you might be wondering, if the lunula is truly this symbol, what can it reveal beyond the obvious? Does it speak only of vital energy? Or does it hide even more? Perhaps a direct reflection of what Tesla sought throughout his life, the connection between human beings and the hidden laws of the universe? This is the question that opens the door to the next revelation. Because if the lunula is truly a mirror of the moon engraved on our bodies, then every time we look at our hands, we are, without realizing it, looking at the sky itself. And this brings us to an even more provocative question, which can only be answered in the next step. If that little arch on our nails reflects the moon's glow, what does that mean for the energy that circulates within us? Look at your hands again. Notice that small white arc at the base of your nail, and allow yourself to imagine that it's not just an insignificant curiosity. Think for a moment how much it resembles the crescent moon. Have you ever stopped to reflect on this? It's not just an aesthetic coincidence. The moon has always been present in our lives, marking time, influencing the tides, illuminating the darkness, and serving as a symbol of mystery and transformation. Now, imagine that this same star has left its silent mark on you, like a reminder etched into your flesh that the human body is not separate from the cosmos, but follows the same rhythms. Nikola Tesla believed that nothing in nature is isolated. For him, every manifestation of life obeys vibrational laws. He said that if we want to understand the universe, we need to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. If this vision is applied to the lunula, this small semicircle is not only part of biology, but a physical reflection of the moon itself within you. It's as if nature chose to replicate within the human body the same symbol that hovers in the sky. But why? What does it mean? The moon has always been more than a distant object in space. For ancient peoples, it was a guide and a mirror. The tides obey its magnetism. Agricultural cycles were planned by its dance in the sky, and even female reproductive cycles were linked to its 28-day phase. The moon waxed, waned, disappeared, and was reborn, reminding everyone that life also follows movements of expansion and contraction, of plenitude and absence. Isn't it curious to think that these very same cycles are also reflected in the human experience? Days of full energy, like a full moon, and days of retreat, like a new moon. Now look again at the lunula. It seems to carry the same code in its form. Could this be a reminder that you too live within cycles, even if you strive to believe that everything must be linear? Imagine a person going through a moment of loss. At first they feel empty, aimless, as if everything has disappeared. It's the dark night of the new moon. Little by little they find strength, small hopes emerge, and like a crescent moon, they begin to regain vitality. Later fullness arrives, the joy of being whole, like the full moon shining in the sky. But no state lasts forever. We must learn to let go, to release what has already served its purpose, as the waning moon does. Isn't that exactly how our lives move? So why would a lunar symbol be drawn on our bodies, if not to remind us that we are part of the same rhythm. Tesla believed that the human body is a microcosm. He saw the human being not as a separate piece of nature, but as an extension of it. For him, the same energy that moves planets also vibrates in every cell. Therefore, the lunula cannot be ignored. If the moon governs the seas and the seas make up a large part of the planet, what prevents the same influence from acting on us, who are composed mostly of water? If entire oceans obey the moon, you really think your body, full of invisible currents, would be free from this influence? Think about how many times you've had a sleepless night during a full moon. How many times have your dreams become more intense, your emotions stronger, your thoughts racing? Many dismiss this as mere coincidence, but Tesla didn't believe in coincidences. For him, these repetitions were evidence of a universal vibrational pattern. What if the lunula were the physical proof of this connection? A symbol that the moon is not only in the sky, but also imprinted within you. In everyday life, these signs appear in subtle ways. A woman may notice that her mood and energy fluctuate in tune with the phases of the moon, even without paying attention. A man may notice that on nights with a full moon, he feels more restless, more prone to acting out or making impulsive decisions. A child may wake up frightened on brighter nights, as if their entire body feels the call of this star. All of these are manifestations of the same invisible field. And the lunula, ever present in our hands, seems to be a physical reminder that this field acts upon us. Tesla said that the entire universe is like a symphony of frequencies. Every star, every body, every cell vibrates to a specific note, and what we call reality is the result of this invisible orchestra. If this is true, then the moon plays a role as the great conductor of certain notes that affect Earth. But if you carry within your body a symbol identical to your form, wouldn't that be a sign that your life is also intertwined with this cosmic concert? The lunula would be a small reminder that you are not separate from, but in tune with, this music. Now imagine a simple scene. You're walking at night, the sky is clear, and the crescent moon appears on the horizon. You feel something different, a certain inner silence, as if all of nature were in tune with this moment. Now you look at your hand and realize that that same arc is there, engraved within you. What do you feel in that moment? Perhaps a surprise? Perhaps a strange familiarity, as if you understand, albeit silently, that there is no separation between what happens outside and what happens inside you. This realization can change everything because it restores to the body the dignity of being a living map of the universe. But there's also a conflict. If all this is so obvious, why have we grown up ignoring these signs? Why does modern science insist on viewing the lunula only as part of the nail's anatomy? Perhaps because human thought has moved away from the symbolic. We live in a time when value is given only to what can be measured. But Tesla would remind us that the invisible is no less real. He himself was mocked when he spoke of invisible forces. Today, we know he was right. What else could he have intuited that we still can't understand? Perhaps the lunula is one such example. It's not just biology, it's a symbol, and symbols have power because they speak directly to the unconscious. They remind us of something we already know but have forgotten. They activate deep memories that don't pass through rational logic. When you look at your lunula, even without understanding, something inside you recognizes it. You recognize the shape of the moon. You recognize the cycles. You recognize that life is not static. This silent recognition is the beginning of awakening. And this is where the narrative gains suspense. Because if the lunula is truly a reflection of the moon, then it's not just showing that you live in cycles. It may also be showing that your body is a bridge, a channel, through which cosmic forces express themselves. And this raises bolder questions. Does the intensity or absence of the lunula reveal something about your inner balance? Could it indicate whether you're in tune with the energy of life or disconnected from it? Tesla believed that harmony is the secret of everything. Where there is harmony, there is energy flow. Where there is blockage, chaos arises. Thus, the lunula can be seen as a clue to this state, a silent beacon, indicating whether your life is following its natural rhythm or if you've strayed from it. This idea may seem strange at first glance, but isn't it exactly what we experience in our daily lives? When we're aligned, things flow naturally. When we're out of balance, everything feels heavy and confusing. Now, let's return to the small examples of everyday life. Have you ever noticed how certain periods seem to conspire in your favor, while in others everything goes wrong? Have you noticed how there are phases when ideas come easily, while in others, creativity seems blocked? Doesn't this alternation resemble the cycles of the moon? What if the lunula is a physical reminder that you need to respect these cycles instead of fighting them? This is the surprise Tesla invites us to consider. Perhaps we are not just spectators of the cosmos, but part of its machinery. Perhaps every detail of our bodies is a signature of this connection. The lunula is one of these signs, discreet but insistent, repeating the shape of the moon within us so that we never forget that the same force that governs the oceans also pulses within us. And here lies the final conflict of this stage. If it's true that we carry the reflection of the moon in our bodies, why do we live as if we were separate from it? Why do we insist on believing we are independent, self-sufficient, isolated? This illusion is the root of much suffering. The lunula stands before our eyes to remind us otherwise. And now the inevitable question arises, paving the way for the next step. If this symbol truly reflects the moon, if it is etched into you like a cosmic signature, what can it say about the energy circulating within your body? If the moon can move entire oceans, what might it be moving within you right now? Have you ever wondered why some people seem to have inexhaustible energy, while others are constantly tired, even for no apparent reason? Science seeks explanations in hormones, diet, sleep, and habits. But Nikola Tesla would look beyond the obvious. For him, vitality was not just the result of chemical processes, but a direct reflection of the energy field in which each human being is immersed. This is where the lunula takes on another meaning. More than a reflection of the moon, it can be seen as a mirror of vital energy, a silent barometer of one's own inner harmony. Cultures far apart have recognized this for centuries. In India, the crescent shape is associated with the chakra responsible for creativity, adaptability, and the joy of life. When this energy center is blocked, life loses fluidity and everything seems heavier. In Chinese medicine, the lunula is interpreted as a reflection of qi, the life force that courses through the body. A visible, clear, and healthy arc would indicate energy circulating freely, while a dull or absent lunula could suggest stagnation. How can we explain such different traditions reaching the same conclusion? Is it just coincidence? Or are we facing a universal pattern that spans cultures and eras? Tesla didn't believe in coincidences. For him, when different peoples describe similar symbols, they are in fact capturing fragments of the same cosmic truth. If the lunula appears as a sign of vitality in such distant systems of thought, perhaps it's not an unimportant detail, but a reminder that the body speaks in vibrational codes we've forgotten to decipher. The question that arises is inevitable. Are we willing to relearn the body's silent language? Now think about situations in your daily life. Have you ever felt full of energy, able to do everything with clarity and focus, as if nothing could stop you? And at other times, even without physical exertion or sleepless nights, have you woken up exhausted, with a heavy mind and a body without the will to move? If vital energy is invisible, the body needs markers to express it. The lunula may be one of these markers. Have you ever considered that it may be telling you something about your internal state, even before you feel the symptoms? The curious thing is that almost no one talks about this. The modern world invests fortunes in sophisticated tests, but ignores signs that are right in front of our eyes. It's as if we've forgotten how to trust our own body language. Tesla, who saw human beings as condensers of cosmic energy, would say that we're missing valuable information simply because we've been trained to believe that only what can be measured by machines is real. But what if it's just the opposite? What if what's invisible is the most important key? Imagine someone living a grueling routine with constant worries, poor nutrition, and short sleep. Little by little, your energy begins to drain. Your body gives you signs: fatigue, lack of mental clarity, unstable emotions, and the lunula silently may begin to disappear. This disappearance isn't magical or mystical, but it can be interpreted as a reflection that your inner harmony is being lost. Have you ever considered the impact of learning to recognize these signs before you reach your limit? And here a pattern breaks. Could the lunula be not just a symbol, but a kind of biological radar? If so, then it's not just a metaphor, but a practical tool for perceiving your energy status. What if you could learn to read this radar, just like you read a thermometer or a blood pressure gauge? Tesla believed that energy doesn't disappear, it just changes form. If we apply this principle to the body, we can conclude that vitality isn't suddenly lost, but rather transformed into other states: anxiety, apathy, tension. The lunula, when dimmed or intensified, could reflect these changes. Have you ever wondered how much information your body delivers daily, without you even realizing it? In everyday life, there are simple examples. Someone who begins to dedicate themselves to regular exercise and a more balanced diet may notice not only increased energy, but also subtle changes in their body. The lunula may become more visible, clearer, as if reflecting this return of vital energy. Another, living under intense stress, may see this small arch gradually disappear as a subtle sign that it is draining their energy. Which leads us to an intriguing question. If we learn to observe this, could we prevent illness or exhaustion before they set in? Tesla, who saw human beings as part of a cosmic machine, would say so. For him, each cell vibrates in harmony with greater forces. When this harmony is broken, the body begins to send out signals, at first subtle, then more obvious. The lunula would be one of these subtle signals, a code just waiting to be read. Why do we ignore this? Perhaps because we've become accustomed to treating the body as a machine and forget that it is also language, symbol, and energy. Now pause and ask yourself, how's your energy? Not the automatic response of "I'm fine" or "I'm tired," but your actual perception. How do you wake up in the morning? How do you feel midday? Is your mind flowing or stuck? Could your lunula be showing you something you haven't yet consciously noticed? And here comes the surprise. The lunula doesn't guarantee anything by itself. It's not a talisman or a promise of eternal vitality. It's just a reminder. A silent instrument that points inward and asks, what have you been doing with your energy? Are you wasting it or nourishing it? Are you living in harmony or imbalance? Just as having a musical instrument at home doesn't mean you know how to play it, having a visible lunula doesn't guarantee balance. It requires intention, practice, and awareness. Tesla repeated that energy can be shaped. This applies to both his inventions and life itself. If the lunula shows potential, it's up to you to activate it. And activating doesn't mean magic, but conscious choices. How you take care of yourself, how you manage your emotions, how you organize your thoughts. Isn't this precisely what differentiates a chaotic life from a harmonious one? Now, back to the troubling question. Why do some people seem to always have vitality, while others live in a slump? Could the answer lie not only in external factors, but also in how they align with or distance themselves from this universal field? If the body is an antenna, as Tesla said, the lunula is a reminder that your tuning depends on you. And this is the point that leads to the next step. Because if the lunula reveals vital energy, it can also be a sign of something even greater. Not just health or fatigue, but hidden talents, perceptions that go beyond the five senses. A sensitivity to the invisible that Tesla believed was part of humanity's future. If this small arch at the base of the nail can already reveal so much about your energy, what can it reveal about what still lies dormant within you? You've come this far, and you may not realize it, but something inside you has already begun to change. The simple act of looking at your hands and seeing a sign there that previously went unnoticed already alters the way you perceive yourself. This is the turning point. Tesla said that nothing is too small when it comes to the language of the universe. For him, the smallest electrical spark could light up cities, and the smallest detail in life could conceal the law that governs everything. The lunula is one of these sparks, a subtle reminder that you are not separate from the whole, but connected to it. The question that remains is, what will you do with this knowledge? Tesla believed that humanity was only in its infancy in understanding its true potential. He saw in human beings not just flesh and blood, but a vibrational machine capable of capturing invisible forces. What he called imagination, many called madness, but he knew that today's invisible would be tomorrow's reality. Similarly, when you look at the lunula, you can treat it as an anatomical curiosity, or you can see it as a code left for you, a physical reminder that you possess more power than you imagine. How many times have you ignored signs of life, premonitions, coincidences so perfect they couldn't be mere chance? How many times have you felt something was about to happen, and it did? The lunula is an invitation to take these signs seriously. Now consider something simple. Every time you breathe, millions of cells carry out invisible processes that sustain life. You can't see it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The electricity that flows throughout the world is also invisible, yet it powers cities. Tesla dedicated his life to proving that invisible forces were as real as the stones in the ground. He was ridiculed and discredited, but he never gave up. Are you willing to apply that same courage to your own life? Are you willing to believe that the invisible within you, your energy, your intuition, your vibrational field, can be even more real and powerful than anything you touch? Perhaps the greatest conflict lies here. We want proof, numbers, guarantees, but we forget that humanity's greatest advances have always been born from those who dared to believe before proof. Tesla imagined machines that transmitted energy wirelessly when that seemed impossible. Today, we live surrounded by invisible signals from Wi-Fi, radio, and satellites. Everything they called fantasy has become everyday life. What if the same logic applies to the lunula? What if one day science proves that it is indeed an indicator of vital and spiritual energy, just as ancient cultures already knew? Will we be prepared for this revelation? The world we live in doesn't encourage listening to the invisible. It trains us to rush, to produce, to accumulate, but not to perceive. Tesla, on the contrary, immersed himself in silence, spending hours alone in contemplation. He knew that silence isn't empty, it's a space for connection. Perhaps that's why so many people today seek out practices like meditation, conscious breathing, and contact with nature. It's not a fad, it's a necessity. It's the search for harmony. When you look at your lunula, you can transform this act into a reminder to silence yourself, even for a few seconds, and align yourself again. Have you ever noticed how a few seconds of presence can change the course of an entire day? But here's the uncomfortable truth. Nothing changes without practice. It's easy to feel inspired by Tesla's words or reflect on symbols, but transformation only happens when that knowledge becomes action. You can go out now and forget everything, continue living on autopilot, or you can decide that from now on, every time you see your lunula will be a moment of reconnection. It doesn't have to be long. A conscious thought, a deep breath, an affirmative phrase are enough to keep the circuit active. Remember, energy needs consistency to move. Tesla faced the world's resistance because he believed the future depended on the brave few who dared to see beyond. Perhaps you are among those few. Perhaps you are here for a reason. You have reached this point because part of you knows you can no longer live as before, ignoring the signs, wasting energy, believing you have no power. Part of you wants to awaken, and it is this part that the lunula has come to remind you of. Now imagine what it would be like to live every day in tune with this field, not waking up on autopilot, but waking up aware that you are a living antenna connected to the universe. Imagine making decisions not out of fear, but through the clarity of an aligned frequency. Imagine attracting people, opportunities, and experiences, not through force, but through harmony. Does it seem far-fetched? Remember, every great transformation begins with small signals. Tesla lit his first spark before illuminating entire cities. You can ignite your spark now, but you have to choose. That's the hardest part. Life is full of distractions, noise, excuses. It's easier to ignore the lunula, laugh at the idea, move on. But what happens if you decide to believe? What happens if you turn this symbol into practice? What happens if, instead of waiting for external changes, you start shaping your internal frequency? Perhaps you'll discover that you're not alone, that the universe responds, that coincidences increase, that doors open. Would you be prepared to deal with a life like this? Tesla said that the future belongs to those who understand the language of energy. This language is already within you. The lunula is just a reminder. It won't do the work for you, but it can show you the way. Now, faced with this, the choice is in your hands. You can look down and see only fingernails, or you can look and see the cosmos reflected in your skin, begging to be activated. If something within you was moved by this message, don't let it die here. Bring it into your life. Create your own ritual. Look at the lunula upon waking and remember who you are. Be silent. Repeat a phrase that aligns your energy. Visualize what you want to experience. Use this symbol as a trigger to awaken every day, and share this journey, because the more people awaken, the stronger the collective field becomes. Tesla knew that transformation was not individual but collective. So here's the final invitation. Become a conscious creator of your frequency. Don't expect the world to change on its own. Be the change yourself. When you look at your hands from now on, remember Tesla, remember the lunula. Remember that the entire universe pulsates within you, and then ask yourself, will you live as a spectator or an active participant in the cosmic symphony?